I'm Paula D. McClain. I'm the James B. Duke Distinguished Professor of Political Science and Professor of Public Policy at Duke University. I'm also Dean of the Graduate School and Vice Provost for Graduate Education. I owe almost all of my success to my mentor, Harold Milton Rose. Harold was a geographer. Unfortunately, he passed in 2016 at the age of 86. Harold was born in Nashville, Tennessee, raised in Mount Pleasant, entered Tennessee State University at the age of 16, went into the Army, came back to Tennessee State, then went to Ohio State and did a master's degree and a PhD, earning his PhD in geography in 1960. I encountered Harold not when I was in graduate school, because I went to Howard University, but when I was a new young assistant professor in political science at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And Harold was in the Department of Geography and Urban Affairs. And he wandered into my office one day, and we just struck up not only a mentorship, but a friendship. And Harold taught me how to be a scholar. Harold Rose started out his geographical research in kind of natural resources conservation, but then he moved into racial segregation and how segregation was not only spatial in terms of how Black communities were segregated, but a social process. He is probably, or was at that point, the originator, a lot of the urban geography that people now study. I'd actually read Harold Rose in graduate school, but I didn't know he was Black at the time. Harold was elected president of the Association of American Geographers in 1976, and he is, and still is, the only Black president of that association. Harold's work on segregation and urban communities is just foundational, was foundational, is still foundational. And many people aren't aware of geographers or geography, because many universities now don't have geography departments. They started getting rid of those in the late 1980s, early 1990s. But Harold's work was just on the cutting edge. And he is, and still remains, one of the top urban geographers, one of the top geographers of his time and of our time. And like I said, he kept me from making a lot of mistakes in my career. He guided me along a path to make sure that I was successful. He was very tough. He was very honest. And I appreciated everything that he did for me. In fact, one of my books is dedicated to Harold. And the dedication script goes that, he was not only a friend and a mentor, but he taught me how to be a scholar. So if you don't know Harold Milton Rose, look him up, check out some of his books, look at his articles, look at the number of people that cite his work and everything that he did. He was a giant. He was important to me. He was important to a lot of people, because I'm not the only scholar of color that he mentored along the way. And I will let others kind of speak, to his mentoring of them. But Harold Milton Rose, geography, University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about Harold. You don't get that opportunity often, but thank you very much to the history makers for allowing me to talk about him.